let's put together the purple floral card from your class kit. So in your kit, you will have your card base, and this is, again, a long fold card. I did 2 in this kit, so it's going to be 4 1/4 by 11, and then you're going to go ahead and fold that in half, so you have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card. Then I took another, and this is the heavyweight basic white cardstock. I really like that for a card. I really like my card base to be nice and sturdy. Sometimes in one of the other cards in this class kit, we used a pre-made card and envelope set, and it was a little thin for my liking, but as long as you put like a base cardstock piece on the inside and you do plenty of stuff on the front, then it gives it the weight that it needs. So I do like to have a nice weight of cardstock. Then I took a piece of the basic white cardstock that's going to be just an extra panel on the front. And basically what happened was I started to build this card, and I was like, well, it kind of is missing. You know, there's a few spots where maybe you could stamp a sentiment. The top corner and the bottom corner were a little plain. And whenever that happens to you and you feel like, wow, there's just something missing here, a piece of embossed cardstock on the front, sometimes in the same color as your card base, goes a long way. That makes such a difference to add that piece onto your card. It just really fills up what we would call white space on a card. So that and ribbon are always my tricks. If I feel like, oh, this is just a little plain or it needs something, I will often go to an embossing folder or ribbon. And in fact, on this card, I did both. So you'll have that piece, and I just love this brick embossing folder. It's really cool how it has, you know, some of the bricks are embossed a little higher or deeper than others. So that's a really cool embossing folder. Then you've got 2 pieces of gorgeous grape cardstock. And this is basically the largest of these stitched shape die that I just cut in half. Okay, so just showing you how to do something a little different with some of our dies. And then 2 different patterned papers, and they have different backings, so if you don't like the little daisies, you can flip it over and use the stripes, however you want to do it. And that was the next size down of these stitched shape dies. And again, just cut it in half. So you have 2 of those. You have some of the polka dot tulle ribbon and some of this gorgeous grape new ribbon that's in the mini catalog. And then you'll either have one piece that's got 3 flowers, or you'll have a piece of paper from the designer series paper that either has a 3 flower piece or a 2 and a 1 flower piece. Okay, so I tried to use up what fit on the paper. Let me see if I've got a piece here to show you. Hang tight, I'll be right there. Okay, here's the designer series paper. Absolutely love this black and white paper, and it is from the current mini catalog. And I'm gonna have to order a second pack of it because I just love it so much. This is on page 11 of the mini catalog, and it's called the True Love Designer Series paper. It's all black and white, and it's just, I absolutely love it. And what I love about it is it helps you make cards with very few materials, because these flowers are just so beautiful, and they really are not that hard to fussy cut, like a couple of minutes to fussy cut one of these. And fussy cutting just means you're actually going in by hand and cutting around the flower. So you'll either have a 3 floral piece, or you'll have a double and a single. Okay, so one or the other. And so I'm showing you this one. Let's see. I think I had another, here's one I did in a prior, and this was a different flower but from that same set, and this was a two-piece flower that I just did on the front of that. So I went ahead and I fussy cut mine, so you'll need to do that. Mine happened to be an edge piece, and so I have one of the leaves cut off, but that's okay because I'm gonna make it work by covering it up. So that works as well, right? So think about that when you're looking at this paper. While there's quite a few full pieces, there are some that are, you know, cut off the edge, but if you're building, you know, a collage of things, you can still use those pieces. So it really goes a long, long way. And there's 2 sheets of that paper in the pack. So you'll have those flowers, and it is up to you if you want to leave them black and white or if you want to color them. I'm going to show you how to color them today, but let's go ahead and build the card, and then we'll leave the flower piece to the end, the flower and the ribbon. All right, so you've got your 2 gorgeous grape cardstock pieces and these 2 black and white pieces. I'm going to go ahead and use the liquid glue just to show you that, you know, it works really, really well. And one of the things that's nice about the liquid glue is it gives you a little bit of movement time. Okay, so just go ahead and put some adhesive on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it right to the edge here versus centering it. I'm going to bring it right to the edge, and then I'll try and make sure that it's, you know, top to bottom, pretty equal border. I think that looks pretty good. So just go ahead and put that down, give it a second, hold it for a second, and then we're going to go ahead and do the next piece. This one is a little too busy for me, so I'm going to use this as the front. Some people might think that front part is busy as well. Okay, so just put that adhesive on. I like this adhesive because it's pretty strong for a liquid adhesive. So again, lining it right up along this edge here, trying to keep the top and bottom border pretty equal. Got a little bit of movement time there, and then just hold it down. Okay, so it's just kind of a different way to utilize your dies. I'm going to go ahead and attach this piece to the front of my card using my Stampin' Seal, nice strong double-sided dry adhesive. And this is the front of my card. I'm going to center that on there as best I can. Looks pretty good. Place that down. So then what I want to do with these pieces is I'm going to have one come off the side here and one come off the side down here. So just a different way to put a card together. Really, that's all. It's not any fancy design or anything. It's just a different way to do it. I'm going to go ahead and use my Stampin' Seal again for this. You always want to make sure you've got a really good adhesive going on top of an embossed piece because of all those bumps in there. You want to make sure it's going to hold really well. So I'm going to, again, just line this up. You could do it right from here, from this piece, but I'm going to go right to the edge of the card. Doesn't matter. Either way is fine. Get that down, and then do my other piece. Oh, I went over the edge there. So let me show you what I do when I do that. So I just got a little crazy and didn't go very straight. So I just, whenever I go over the edge like that, I just use my finger to bring it back. I just don't really want any adhesive sticking out the side. It kind of then sticks to everything. So same thing down here, kind of leave about a similar border and bring it right out to the edge. But again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. So just a different design. I think it's kind of fun. And you can imagine how this would look if I hadn't put this embossed piece in here. It really, really adds a lot to this. And then the floral piece is going to go in here in the center. And then we've got some ribbon that I'm basically just going to fold these both over like this. Just kind of layer it, and I'm just going to tuck it in under the flowers so that it just sticks out the bottom like that. So that's what I'm going to do with those pieces, but we'll do that later. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to color these, and there's lots of ways you can color them. It's already a designer series paper. It wasn't stamped, so you can use any type of marker, water-based coloring tools. You can use the Stampin' blends, alcohol markers. What I want to show you is how to use your ink pads. So maybe you don't have any other coloring tools. So honestly, you could use crayons, colored pencils, any kind of markers. You can use paints, anything you have, or you can leave it black and white. So I'm going to show you how to use your ink pads. So the old style Stampin' Up! Ink pads, before they moved to these very flat, sleek design ones, you could squeeze the top really well and it would transfer some of the ink pad onto the inside. I can show you. It would transfer it right here, and then you could use that for your watercolor. It looks like I got a little bit. These new ones don't do that so well. So what I do is I just take an acrylic block, or you could have a glass plate or something that's not porous, and I just tap some color right onto my my acrylic block, and this is now going to be my paint palette. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a water brush, or you could have a paintbrush and a little jar of water. So whatever works for you. I just happen to like the water brush because it's here and it's ready to go. It has a little tube here that you fill with water, and it's ready to go. And so see how I'm just kind of using this to pick up some color. Now, my tip for everybody is always start as light as you can. Now this is pretty heavy. I'm going to make sure I've got some paper towel here, because sometimes my water brush tends to be a bit wet and gives me more than I want. So I'm going to just try and grab a little bit of this, and then I'm just going to paint it on. And you can really do it as thick or as light as you want. I like to try and get some variation in it, just because that kind of really brings sort of a watercolor look to your finished product. But you know, this is, I mean, whatever works for you, whatever you enjoy, the look you like, whatever you're going for. Again, I got to get a little bit of that water off. It's a bit heavy. I don't want my image to be too wet, basically, because it's not watercolor paper. This is just regular paper that this image is printed on. So it doesn't really want to absorb the water as quite like watercolor paper. Watercolor paper is just a whole different product. Okay, so there's my leaves, and you can see, I mean, you've got some variation in there just by bringing it. And look at, I've hardly used really any of this ink. And then I've just got a little bit of leaves here because this, as I mentioned, this image that I'm using happened to be off the edge. If you have watercolor colored pencils, now they have to be watercolor. Not all colored pencils are water-based. You basically can just color right onto your image and then bring your water brush in and blend it out. Very pretty. And I'm going to do a video on watercoloring techniques in the next month or two, because people really like to watercolor, but they're not sure how to all the time. So again, dry off my brush. So that's all I mean, I hardly used any on there. And now I'm going to bring in the gorgeous grape that matches the ribbon and the cardstock that I'm using on the card. Again, one of the things I love so much about Stampin' Up! Is the color coordination. So you're going to have ink pads and markers and colored pencils and cardstock and even the designer series paper, and they're all going to coordinate together. So with a water brush, or if you've got a paintbrush, you'll want to just make sure it's clean when you switch colors. Okay, so I'm going to just start by picking up a little bit. And I'm going to start in the center, and I really take this, I make this as easy as possible on myself. Okay, now I'm going to need a little bit more water because I want some really light purple now. I don't want to get too much color. I don't want it to be too heavy. Just heavy in the center of the flower, and then let the petals be really light. Some people really, I mean, I enjoy this. I also enjoy fussy cutting. It really doesn't bother me. I like to, you know, I really like to spend a lot of time with my family, and lots of times they'll like to watch shows that maybe I'm not as interested in, but I like to be with them in the same room. And so I'll do something like this. I'll just bring my stuff out and sit there and fussy cut. I just really enjoy it. So I think I'm going to stop there. I got it a little bit heavy here, and so I might want to try and blend some of that out a little bit by bringing in a little bit more, just so that I can kind of get it blending out to the really lighter edges of the leaves. But, you know, really nothing fancy, but I think it looks really pretty. So move on to the next flower. And it is helpful to start lighter and move out with your color. My brush is now feeling a little dry, so first it felt a little wet. There we go. There we go. Okay. It's nice to not have to worry too much about the lines, right? Just kind of get that color down, swirl it around. And if you know, as I was saying, it's easier to start light and then you can build on it. So once I'm finished here, if there's some areas where I think, oh, I'd like to accent that a little bit more, you can go in with some more color over top of it. Okay, almost finished here. Yep, my brush is definitely getting a little dry now. Okay, so then you can come back with a little bit more and you can touch up and add some accents. So if you want to accent some of those lines near the center of the flower, you can just add some more purple on there. And I always tell people when I'm coloring, I like to go off of the artist's rendition, right? So wherever they've got some dark aspects to the image that they've designed, that's where I want to make sure I put some darker color. Okay, so I think I think I'm good with that, and I'll set that aside and clean that up later. So now I'm ready to finish up my card. So remember, I have this little boo-boo here that I need to fix up. So I think I'm gonna have this one here, and then this flower coming out here. I need to make sure I don't go over the edge or it won't fit in my envelope. And then I'm gonna tuck these ribbons down underneath. So I think I'm gonna prepare the ribbon, and usually what I like to do is just put a glue dot to put it in place. So right in the center, pick up that glue dot, and then I'm gonna just fold my ribbon over, kind of get it into the form that I like. Okay, so now it's good and steady there like that. I'm gonna do the same thing with my purple one. So I'm gonna grab this next glue dot right about in the center. You got to make sure it really doesn't like to stick to fabric. Okay, so I want my tails. So I'm just going to try to manipulate this. So that's about how I want my tails to look. So then just kind of stick that together. All right, and that's holding enough. And then I'm going to put one here. So I'm going to put one behind this piece because I'm going to layer this on top of the white. And then I'm going to use other adhesive once I get in there, but this is basically just to hold, okay, so right about there, okay? And so this is how I want this piece to look. And then I'm going to tuck it in underneath. So now let's see, I want it to go right about like that. So again, it's not really over the edge, and I can trim this down. In fact, I'll do that right now. I'm going to trim that down just a little bit. I think both sides. There. And then I'm going to have it kind of off, just out like that, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put, let's see, put a glue dot on there. That should work to hold it in place. Okay, so I've got my glue dot there, and my ribbons are in place. And then when I put my flowers over top, then it will also hold it. So I am going to use some dimensionals. Now, because I've used watercolor wants that to kind of bend a little bit from the water. So you can either like let it sit, you know, put a little something on it to keep it flat and let it dry. I'm going to go ahead and put this together now though, and it should be just fine. I'm going to just go ahead and put these dimensionals on here, and I'm not going to worry too much about whether they're on top of here or not. Again, this paper is not super thick, so it's going to kind of move in basically how I have it. So right there, that piece right there, and then this one is going to go over top a little bit here. So this part of the flower, I just want a double-sided adhesive because it's already popped up. I don't need it popped up further. So I just want flat adhesive. So I'm going to do that right now while I've got the piece in my hand, and I've got the right area. So I've gone ahead and done that, and now I'm going to put dimensionals on the rest of it. So one right there, one right here, one right there, and then I think I'm going to cut a little side piece, so I want a smaller piece to go on this little leaf right there. Okay, so then go ahead and remove those backings from those dimensionals. All right, and then this piece is the one that's got the double-sided adhesive. It's going to go down flat, and the rest has dimensionals. So go down flat on there, and there you go. And again, just like filling up some of that white space, with that embossing folder and then adding some ribbon down there. And I think the end product looks really pretty. You could also go in, if you have a Wink of Stella, you could also go in and add a little bit of glimmer in the center of the flowers. That's always a really pretty thing to do. And there you go, all finished. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much.